do that. That's better. Today, I take a look at a 9-game Sunday night slate, few streaming options, ads, and drops. Here we go.
I could bet all of the riches that I ever had.
Good morning, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Clutch Time Podcast, brought to you by Fantasy Basketball International. I'm Adam King, your host at AdamKing91 on Twitter. Check out all of our content, fbibasketball.com. Today, some more transaction talk. As I said, trying to set this up as a regular thing on a Sunday. Getting to it a bit earlier today because I've got plenty on. So found an hour, squeezing it in between vacuuming and mowing the lawn. So let's dive straight into the games for Sunday night. First game, Portland at Brooklyn. For the Blazers, still a few guys out. I mean, some streaming options, and again, 9 games on Sunday does mean that you could very well have a full roster depending on your settings. So you may only need one person to stream. You might not have any streaming spots. So put all that into perspective before making any moves. Obviously, Shaden Sharp, stream him in for points, but he's very hit or miss, as we've seen the last week. Nasir Little has been getting a few extra minutes. More of a deep league stream, I think, as opposed to 12-team leagues. Justice Winslow, stream him in. I mean, he's a borderline ad, I suppose, at the moment with Lillard out, but much like Sharp, he is a little bit up and down. He just has that defensive upside to fall back on. So I think even though he doesn't score as many points, he can chip in across a few categories. So worth streaming him in. Drew Eubanks has looked pretty good when he's out there, despite Nurkic being healthy, obviously. More for blocks. But he's questionable as well, I think. So just keep an eye on that. You don't want to stream in someone that then doesn't play. For the Nets, not really, not a lot to stream. They're pretty healthy at the moment. Obviously, they're not winning as many games as they'd like, but they are healthy. Seth Curry is probably the only guy I'd consider. Joe Harris is the other one, but based on the minutes distribution over the last week, I think Curry seems to be their preference. He's sort of playing 25, 26 minutes, I think, compared to Joe Harris, who's under 20. I think he's down at about 15 or something like that from memory. So, yeah, it's really, really Seth Curry there. Next game of the night is the Warriors and the Timberwolves. For the Warriors, again, not really a lot of streaming value to be found there. Kevon Looney's the only guy if you need rebounds. For the Wolves, also not a lot. I have got Jordan McLaughlin there, however you pronounce it. He has been ruled out, I believe, so ignore that one. I do like him when he's healthy as an assists streamer, but if he's not going to play, don't stream him in. Kyle Anderson has been playing pretty good minutes, and we know what he can do. 25 minutes, he'll get you some rebounds, some defensive stats, a couple of threes. So he's probably worth streaming in, and probably is a fringe ad as well. I don't think I'd be running to grab him, but we do know he can put up back-end value when given the minutes. So third game of the night, Pacers and the Clippers. For the Pacers, TJ McConnell, stream him in. He's not playing big minutes on most nights, but he can still get you 5 assists and a steal, or 6 assists and a steal, 2 steals. So that can be valuable on a Sunday night. And then there's a few guys on the Pacers as well who I've got later when I talk about drops. Guys like Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith. They can be streamed in if you need some rebounds and blocks. But I'll talk about them a bit later. For the Clippers, Kawhi's out. Paul George is out. So Marcus Morris, I mean, keep rolling with him. He hasn't been great, but he's getting minutes. So you figure he's probably going to get you double-digit scoring, maybe 5 rebounds. He can sneak a steal, and will probably hit a couple of threes, and it's pretty efficient from the line as well. So he's worth a look. Terrence Mann, we know what he can do when he's given big minutes, and he was decent yesterday. So he's worth considering, and Norm Powell as well, who prior to yesterday, he wasn't at his best yesterday, but prior to that, he had been playing really well. So I think Powell is a guy to stream in and potentially look at as a somewhat long-term ad as well. Oh, let's go back. So next game, Heat and Hawks. For the Heat, look, honestly, I'm not touching any of the Heat guys because there's so many guys questionable and doubtful and in and out. Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent are 2 guys you could consider, but they're both on the injury report. So it's if you need to lock your lineups and make your ads sort of overnight, then I probably wouldn't risk it with any of those Heat guys. For the Hawks, Onyeka Okongwu, he started yesterday with Clint Capella out, and I think Capella is... Oh, I did see his name somewhere. Oh, where is he? I have a feeling he's doubtful. Questionable to play tomorrow with dental pain. So, look, if you picked up Okongwu for that game, I'd probably hold on to him and just see. If he plays big minutes, he's a must-roster player. AJ Griffin and DeAndre Hunter, I think both of those guys can have streaming value. Hunter more for points. That's really all he does is points. AJ Griffin can get you some steals and a few other numbers across the board. They are getting to the point where they're starting to cancel each other out a bit. I prefer Griffin in terms of fantasy overall value, but Hunter is obviously the preference. He's still starting, so until Griffin takes over as the starter, which I don't think is going to happen, I don't think he'll be a must-roster guy, but can have some streaming appeal because they are leaning on him a little bit more. Next game, Wizards and Celtics. For the Wizards, Jordan Goodwin, who wasn't great in the last game, but he's worth a look. They do seem to be sort of getting some more confidence in his ability, so I think you could look at streaming him in. Denny Avdia is obviously the guy you want to target there, though, and he's probably an ad, to be honest, with how he's been playing over the last little bit. Let me just bring up his ranking. Oh, where are we? Yeah, so with Beal back, he's still playing solid minutes. He's still starting and can get you some assists. We saw him play as the sort of the default point guard at times, so I do like him. I'd like to see him get minutes regularly, but we'll see what happens. It's the Wizards. For the Celtics, Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, both worth a look. They do tend to alternate good games, so I'd probably just pick one. Derek White was good yesterday. Brogdon was good the game before. So again, I just think they're going to cancel each other out, but both can have some streaming value. Cleveland at Detroit. For Cleveland, Kevin Love is out again. Chetty Osman, very up and down. You'll get 2 good games and then a week of bad games. So if you want to take a flyer on him, Dean Wade, I'd probably prefer. I just think his floor is a little bit higher when he's getting the minutes. He's not a long-term ad, I don't think. I don't think he has enough upside, but if you wanted to stream him in tomorrow. For the Pistons, a little bit like the Heat, a lot of injury news, which did come in. I saw just before I jumped on here. So Jaden Ivey is questionable. Sadiq Bey is questionable. Bogdanovic is questionable. Isaiah Stewart is questionable. So, I mean, who knows? If they all come back, then there's probably there's no one worth streaming. I've got Killian Hayes there. I still think he is probably worth it, but probably should have been added when Cade Cunningham went down. Jalen Duren, Marvin Bagley. Look, if Stewart's back, they both take a hit. I don't know what their starting lineup will look like, whether they'll go back to Stewart and Bagley. Duran probably takes just the biggest hit in terms of role because he becomes the third man here. More of a luxury stash, but can be streamed in. He wasn't good yesterday, but did have some early foul trouble. So prior to that, he was playing 25 to 27 minutes a game. So yeah, a little bit tricky here with not knowing who the Pistons are going to roll out. And Alec Burks, just stream him in for points and then drop him and move on. Fairly simple. And final game. Is that all the games? Did I miss something? No, maybe I didn't. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, okay. We're all right. Memphis at New York is the next game. For the Grizzlies, they're also pretty much at full health at the moment. So Tyus Jones, Brandon Clark, a couple of names to consider, but with Ja Morant there, with Jaren Jackson, Steven Adams, who played last game, and I'm not sure if he's on the injury report. I don't think he is, but yeah, look, I mean, Tyus, you could stream him in for some assists and steals, Brandon Clark for rebounds and maybe a block or a steal, but neither would be a priority, I don't think. And for the Knicks, Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickley, a little bit like, say, your Derek White and your Malcolm Brogdon. They do tend to alternate good games. Grimes has been starting, so I guess maybe you lean into him a little over Quickley, but we've seen Quickley have really good games off the bench this season as well. So I think either of those guys are worth a look. Very similar in terms of what they'll give you. Quickly, probably a few more points. And I didn't put on here, but you could look at Jericho Sims, Isaiah Hartenstein, but that center rotation in New York is a mess. So I'm not really going anywhere near that. Second last game, penultimate game of Sunday night, Philly and the Magic. Embiid is out again, I believe. So Paul Reed and Montrezl Harrell both have some appeal. I'd prefer Reed. I know Harrell's starting, but Reed will get you a lot more in terms of overall production. And George Niang, really good 3-point streamer. For the Magic, Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, both worth a look. Again, I wouldn't call them priority streams. Gary Harris probably feels a little bit safer there to me, and has looked okay since returning. And final game, Dallas at Milwaukee. So Dallas are playing now. It's about halftime, I think. Tim Hardaway, if you need points, stream him in. I have no idea what he's doing today. Let me just bring up the box score. Where are we? Tim Hardaway Jr., 2 points. So, yeah, look, he's very hit or miss and not a priority guy, much like a few of these names on here, but he can get hot. We know he can do that. So, yeah, look, consider him. Josh Green is the other one, but really with the Magic basically at full health now, they're not really missing any of their key guys. I don't think there's a lot of streaming value. Finney Smith, I suppose you could consider a streamer, but not a lot of upside there for me. For the Bucks, Javon Carter and Grayson Allen. Carter, who had been rostered prior to probably a week ago, has probably or should have been dropped now, but you could stream him in for some assists and steals. Grayson Allen, really just points and threes. Yeah, I don't really like adding him anywhere, but if you just need points and threes, he is worth a look. Moving on to adds and drops. So these are guys, I'm going to move my head again so we can see. Guys to consider as long-term adds. Some of them might have already been picked up. Killian Hayes, I touched on him with Cade Cunningham likely done for the season. I think Killian Hayes could remain as the starter. And we know he can hurt your field goal percentage, but he'll get you assists and steals, and they're in a position where they can just let him develop alongside Jaden Ivey. So yeah, I'd be adding him. Trey Murphy returned yesterday. Brandon Ingram went down with an injury, a toe sprain from memory. This is a similar injury to Isaiah Stewart. someone else had a toe sprain. Can't think who it is off the top of my head, but they both missed 2 weeks-ish. So if you can get 2 weeks out of Trey Murphy, if he's starting, I think he's a sneaky ad. Denny Avdia, I talked about him as a potential ad as well. Could drop off really quickly. We've seen before where he'll play well for a couple of weeks and then just vanish. Patrick Williams, I mean, his role is pretty secure. He's getting some blocks. Offense is not he's not great, but yeah, look, his floor I think is fairly safe given his role. Poku, who returned a couple of games ago, his minutes are a little bit up and down, as we know with the Thunder, because they tend to actually coach to win. So Mark Dagnall will put on the players that are actually playing well, which can mean that Poku is sometimes left out to close games. But that said, he's getting blocks, he's getting rebounds, he'll hit threes. Free throws are a bit of a concern, but other than that, I think he needs to be rostered. Jeremy Sohan, I'm not sure on him. I mean, again, a little bit like Patrick Williams, his role is fairly safe. His offense is not super productive, but he'll generally get you some defensive stats, and they do like having him out there. He brings really good energy to the floor. So I think if you've just got a roster spot, especially in a weekly league, and I haven't looked at the schedule, but I think he's fairly safe to get you decent numbers most nights. Jalen McDaniels with Gordon Hayward out for, they haven't said how long, week to week, I think, but a shoulder fracture, and it's Gordon Hayward. Jalen McDaniels started yesterday, and while he wasn't great, I think if he's going to continue starting, especially with LaMelo out and Dennis Smith out, I think he's probably worth picking up for a few games just to see what happens. And then the last name on this list is Markelle Fultz. He's questionable, I think, for tomorrow, so that generally means he's close. I've added him in 2 leagues, I think, just to see what happens. Suggs is questionable, I think, as well for tomorrow. So, I mean, obviously, when Fultz does come back, they're going to ease him back in. So he's not going to play 30 minutes on the first night. But if you need assists, if you need steals, his percentages aren't terrible. He can rebound okay. I think if you've got that roster spot, I would just add him and just see what happens. No promises, but there is an opportunity here for him with Cole Anthony still out. And then finally, some drops. Isaiah Hartenstein, sadly, we can move on from him now, I think. He has got a Achilles issue, I believe, which may be contributing to his poor production over the last couple of weeks. But Mitch Robinson is back, and Jericho Sims is playing well. So, yeah, I'm not sure I see the minutes for Hartenstein. Ayo Dosunmu, who, I mean, he's still starting for the Bulls, but isn't doing much. I think he's 200th or something over the last couple of weeks. So he's fine to move on from. Grant Williams, likewise, his role is pretty secure. His minutes are there, but he's very up and down. He's not a high volume producer across any category. So, yeah, I mean, stream him in if you want, but I don't see a ton of upside for him. Jalen Smith and Isaiah Jackson, 2 Pacers guys here who I think probably aren't long-term. You can stream them in if you need some rebounds and blocks, but neither have been playing well, and I just don't think the upside is worth sitting on and maybe passing over some hot free agents that are coming through. Larry Nance, now I was 50-50 whether to put him on this list. He's droppable. I think I dropped him in 1 league, didn't really need him anyway, and held him in another one. So I do think the last couple of games are probably on the low side of what he's going to do. Yesterday was a blowout, and the game before that, Valanciunas just played really well. So I would still hold Nance where possible, but I don't think the upside, it's not like he's going to sort of, if you drop him, someone's going to add him and he's going to be a top 50 player. I don't think that's going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, look, he will be better than what he's been, but if you need production now, I'd be okay with moving on from him. Keegan Murray is another one who sort of falls into that category. I'm holding him in 2 leagues, I think. One's a roto and one's well, it's not a roto, it's a head-to-head, but it's got a games cap, so I can sort of sit him on the bench. And I'm punting points as well. So, I mean, he got some rebounds yesterday. He'll get you some defensive stats. He's been really bad. I don't think we can argue that, but we did see what he can do at the start of the season. I think the issue for me with Keegan is that the Kings are actually a good team, or they look like they're a good team. And I mean, I think if you looked at every team in the league and then had to pick one team that is desperate to make the playoffs this season, Sacramento would be at the top of that list. So while guys like Jabari Smith, Paolo Banchero, those rookies, their teams are not good, and so they can just let these rookies play, whether they're putting up numbers or not. I don't think Murray's in that situation at the moment anyway, because Sacramento want to win games. So if he's not playing well, they have to get him off the court. They don't have that luxury of just letting him go. So I'm okay with moving on from him. A little bit like Nance, I don't see his upside being anything higher than sort of top 100. So Thomas Bryant is the last name on that list. If you did add him, I don't actually think he played yesterday with LeBron back. He will play. I mean, he'll be in the rotation depending on the matchup, but I'm just not sure where the minutes are at the moment. So I'd be okay to drop him. And I think if you do, I mean, the question I always ask myself is, if I drop a player, is someone going to run out and grab him and he's going to bite me in the bum in 2 weeks? I don't think that's the case with Bryant. I mean, if he probably is on my waivers in a few leagues, and I haven't even noticed. And if I did, I wouldn't be running to grab him. So I'm okay to move on from him as well. So that will do it. That's all the games. That's all the ads. That's all the drops. Well, some of the ads and some of the drops. I'll get back to my housework. Thank you for joining me for today's show. Remember our Discord server, that's always going. You can access that over at fbibasketball.com. Follow us on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. We'd love it if you could give a thumbs up, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all of that stuff. Until next time, catch up.
You just listened to another episode from the Fantasy Basketball International Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us. And for more information about joining our community, please check out our website at fbibasketball.com.